If you're trying to figure out low volume CNC machining, then you're probably in the hardest stage of manufacturing. Your prototype works, but now you need 20, 50 or 100 parts that fit, survive real use, and also look like a finished product. And this is where people get hit usually with three problems at the same time. You have pricing shock, local shops going silent, and suppliers pushing minimum order quantities that just feel way too risky. Now in this video, I'll show you what low volume CNC machining actually means, why suppliers react so differently to the same RFQ, and the exact steps to get better quotes with less guesswork. So here's the core idea. Low volume CNC machining is the bridge between it works and we can ship it. You want production grade material, tolerances and finish, but you're not ready for molds, dies or full scale production. Now practically, low volume usually means around 10 to 250 pieces of a part. And below that, you can often get away with prints or one-offs or local prototype work. But above that, you start evaluating higher volume processes and tooling. Now, here's the confusing part. Why does one shop quote fast, another ignores you, and then a third sends a price that just makes no sense? Well, it's because low volume is not a fixed number. It depends on how that factory makes money. Now, a smaller CNC job shop that lives on prototypes and custom work is built for high mix, low volume. Lots of different parts, smaller batches, frequent changeovers. And for them, 50 to 200 pieces can be a great job. But a large production factory is usually the opposite. Fewer parts, larger quantities, longer uninterrupted runs. And for them, your 50-piece job can feel like an interruption that breaks up their profitable flow. So if a shop goes silent or quotes really high, it's often not about your product. It's about their business model. Now, let's hit the three problems that show up in low volume CNC and what you can do about each one. So problem one is pricing shock. You look at the part and you think that's pretty simple, and then you see a quote that just feels impossible. And here's why. Setup cost dominates at low volume. Every new CNC part requires programming, work holding, machine setup, and that checking of that first article. And that fixed effort exists whether you order 5 parts or 500. So when you order 10 or 20 parts, each unit carries a huge share of setup cost. But when you order 100, setup costs get spread out and the unit price drops. And there's a second driver. Some parts are expensive to machine even if they look simple in CAD. So tight tolerances on non-critical features, or deep pockets, or awkward geometry, or difficult materials, or something that requires many operations. These all add time and risk. So the best response is not guessing. Ask for quotes at multiple quantities like 20, 50, and 100, and then compare the unit price curve. Then ask one simple question. Ask them, what is driving cost on this part, and what would you change first to reduce it? Now, problem two is silence from local shops. You send out a request for 30, 50, or 100 parts, and then most just never reply, or they just reply with a number that feels like a polite no. Now, many local shops in high-wage regions optimize around steady, repeat customers and larger runs. So a one-off low-volume batch interrupts their schedule, and for them it might never repeat. So ignoring your request is their quiet way of saying it just doesn't fit for them. Now the fix is not emailing 20 more identical shops. The fix is changing who you ask. Look specifically for shops that welcome prototypes or short runs and high mix, low volume work, or widen your supplier pool beyond your immediate region. Now problem three is the MOQ wall. You want 50 to 200 parts and someone says their minimum order quantity is 500 or 1,000. So MOQs exist because factories want each job to cover planning and setup, and some factories prefer fewer big jobs over many small ones. Makes sense. And CNC is usually more flexible than tooling-based processes, but you still need the right kind of supplier. So one practical move is to communicate intent clearly. So you could say something like, we're starting with 80 units to test, and if it works, we expect 300 units over the next 6 months. And then ask for pricing at your quantity and at their preferred MOQ, so you can make a conscious trade instead of guessing. Now, if you want better quotes, you need to prepare like a buyer who's ready to ship, not like a buyer who is still experimenting. So here's the pre-quote checklist. First, stabilize the design. You don't need perfection, but you should be comfortable shipping this version with only minor changes ahead. Second, send a clear 3D model, like a step file, plus a simple 2D drawing. And the drawing should show key dimensions, hole sizes, and locations, which holes are threaded and what threads they used, which faces matter for fit and appearance, plus material and finish. Be clear. Third, be honest about quantity and timing. Pick your minimum viable batch, then pick one larger option you could still realistically use if pricing made sense. And when you quote 2 or 3 quantities, you can see how the unit price changes and then choose a smart batch size. Now, once you're ready, you then have 3 main sourcing paths, and each has a different balance of speed, control, and economics. Now, option 1 is local relationships. Now, this can be great when you need urgent parts or you already have a trusted partner. Now, it often struggles when local shops are tuned for bigger repeat work and your batch is 20 to 100 pieces. Option 2 is single online instant quote services. Now, these are useful for quick budget checks and early iteration, but you only see one company's pricing and capacity, and the convenience layer adds cost usually. Option 3 is online marketplaces for custom parts. You have one RFQ, multiple factories quoting the same job with easier access to suppliers that treat low volume work as normal business. And the key is you must provide consistent RFQ information so quotes are comparable. Now, if you're in the low volume CNC stage and you want a structured way to reach factories that welcome 30, 80, or 150 piece runs, then Haizol can help. You submit one RFQ, get competing quotes from relevant CNC suppliers, and keep communications and files organized in one place. Now, links to the article and CNC machining services are in the description below.